I never imagined that a single leap through a book would bind me to Thien Nhu in such an unbreakable, heartbreaking way. We were pulled into this ancient realm together, to ordinary women ripped from our modern lives, and thrust into roles that felt like cruel jokes from fate. She, with her razor-sharp intellect and endless schemes, swiftly became the indispensable strategist for Luc Canh Dat, the orphaned heir to a decayed line of legendary generals. I, gifted with an otherworldly physical prowess that seemed almost divine, took on the role of protector for Tuy Truong Binh, a destitute scholar whose frail body hid a mind as vast as the stars. 5 years melted away in a blur of battles, intrigues, and quiet sacrifices. The once pitiful orphan rose to become the empire's youngest grand general, a figure of terror on blood-soaked fields where his sword drank the lives of enemies like fine wine. The scholar in his simple white robes ascended to the pinnacle of the imperial censorate, his edicts reshaping the court's shadowy corridors of power. And then came the turning point. They retrieved her, to Nuc Phong, the story's destined heroine, whose family had been torn apart by treachery long ago. One man dedicated himself to avenging her pains. The other meticulously unraveled the threads of old injustices to clear her name. One twilight evening, as the weight of betrayal hung heavy in the air, Thien Nhu looked at me with eyes that mirrored my own exhaustion. "This side quest, I cannot bear it any longer. And you," her words echoed the storm in my heart. "If you walk away, I walk with you," I replied, our hands clasping in silent solidarity. News of the two families' triumphant return to the capital spread like wildfire through the streets. Their caravan was a display of opulent defiance, carriages with windows etched in golden floral motifs that caught the sun like captured flames, corners draped in tassels, embedded with rubies and sapphires that sparkled with every jolt of the road. At the forefront marched figures who bore no obvious weapons, yet their footsteps were eerily silent, each one a concealed master of lethal arts. From our precarious vantage, a towering tree, I let out a weary sigh and gestured toward the procession for Thien Nhu. "See the leader there? I found him half dead in an alley and nursed him back. The fourth in the third row I pulled him from death's grip during a wine-induced collapse, and the fifth in the second, that beloved foal of his eye, was the one who guided it into the world with my own hands." How could that heartless Tuy Truong Binh dare to deploy the shadow guards I had forged with my sweat and blood to safeguard the very woman who had shattered everything? Thien Nhu's body shook as she gripped my arm tighter. Why not observe from the safety of a tavern? Must we cling to this branch like forgotten birds? Heights terrify me, you know that. The innkeeper had raided my secret stash of aged wines to lavish on the two families' welcome banquet, fueling my rage enough to drag us out here. And there, at the rear, rode Luc Canh Dat himself, the man who had once been Thien Nhu's anchor, the dynasty's most formidable young general astride a colossal warhorse, ensuring the line held firm. The sorter who had waded through rivers of crimson on distant fronts now exchanged soft, longing glances with the girl who lifted the carriage veil, her eyes brimming with unspoken promises. Thien Nhu ceased her trembling, lowered her head, and in her frustration, began absent-mindedly tugging at the fine hairs on my forearm. She murmured with a bitterness that cut deep, "Such a faithless soul. We were both outsiders, transmigrated into this scripted tale with a primary directive, propel the two male protagonists to their fated pinnacles of achievement." In those early days, Tuy Truong Binh was nothing more than a threadbare scholar scraping by on borrowed time, while Luc Canh Dat wandered as a forlorn remnant of a noble house, adrift without shelter or hope. Over those relentless 5 years, Thien Nhu and I formed an unbreakable alliance, one wielding the pen of cunning plots, the other the sword of unyielding might, filling in each other's gaps, devoting every ounce of our beings to lifting them from obscurity to glory. With the core task fulfilled, the system presented its choice: depart this realm or linger to bolster their empires through the secondary objective. In unison, without need for discussion, we opted to stay. We believed the intimacy of those shared dawns and dusks would make the extension effortless. Yet, in a cruel twist that unfolded over mere days, Those men we had elevated forgave the architect of their family's ruin, and ushered her kin back into the heart of the empire with fanfare. It is despicable beyond words, Thien Nhu hissed. The file that absolved the two clan was drafted by your own Truc Chi Dao's hand, I countered with grim resolve, and the judges who condemned them falsely. Luc Canh Dat has silenced them all in the shadows these past nights. Your beloved, she echoed mockingly, her voice laced with scorn. Far off, the caravan came to a halt before the resplendent residence. Luc Canh Dat leapt from his mount with effortless grace, extending a hand to guide the lady down. Truc Chi beheld the estate more majestic than in its former glory and, in her overwhelming delight, nestled coyly against the general's sturdy arm. I fixed my stare on the mansion's prime position, nestled close to the imperial walls, yet insulated from the clamour of markets, a parcel that had commanded fortunes in bidding wars. Crucially, it bordered Luc Canh Dat's own domain. If my recollections held true, this was the sanctuary he had earmarked for Thien Nhu alone. Through the seasons, Thien Nhu had navigated the perils of her gender to serve as his confidant, weaving in and out of his home to untangle webs of alliances and thwart veiled conspiracies. In times of unrelenting pressure, she had remained through the nights. In this unforgiving age, a lady's honour was as delicate as morning dew. Whispers grew into tempests. She was a brazen attach, shadowing the Luc scion, without title or decency. Upon discovering the slander, Luc Canh Dat's eyes had blazed with fury, and he had sworn to her, when triumph crowns me as Grand General, I shall bestow upon you the capital's most enviable abode, silencing every detractor forever. But now, the bold inscription above the gates proclaimed to residents. Thien Nhu gazed unblinking until his silhouette dissolved into the threshold. Then she brushed at her swelling, tear-stung eyes. I abandon this side pursuit. Will you persist? I enveloped her hand in mine, squeezing with fierce determination. Your departure is mine. Exiting a mission demanded patience in the system's queue. Ours was slotted for the following week. The system interjected with its mechanical optimism. Hosts, rethink this. Such chances are fleeting. Seize the moment. It touted its features shamelessly. Simulating demise is among our elite offerings. Prior participants have elected immolation by fire, submersion in depths, fragmentation of the form, or even pulverization under assault. Thien Nhu's expression remained stoic as she declared, I choose suspension by rope before the two gates. We toyed with mirroring her plan, but the system's vivid preview of the grotesque aftermath deterred us. In the end, we settled on a serene submersion, the midnights beneath a pear tree in full blossom, along the upstream brook, outside the city, the very cradle of our arrival in this domain. Even in our waning days, we sustained ourselves with meals and repose as before. One possessed a modest lodging. It was there I intended to shelter Thien Nhu for our final moments. Seizing the window, while Luc Canh Dat tarried at the two estate, I escorted her to his manor to retrieve her possessions. Upon entry, chaos greeted us. Garments and linens scattered like fallen leaves, crates overturned. A pair of burly overseers commanded servants to hurl Thien Nhu's items into the dirt, as if they were refuse. The general had decreed, Mr. shall grace us with visits henceforth. Purge all impurities from these halls, do they not reek of filth? Thien Nhu disregarded the disarray and pressed onward, only to be halted by the overseers barring her path in tandem. What claim do you hold over our master to intrude so boldly? A wedded spouse, a concubine of reputable lineage, a vague presence like yours, haunting these walls, falls short even of that station. I surged ahead, delivering a resounding blow to each. You wretched crones, with tongues dripping poison, if eloquence escapes you, seal those vile orifices. Such a squander of the breath that birthed you. I repelled the advancing retainers in the yard, granting Thien Nhu time to collect her essentials. As we departed, we collided with Luc Canh Dat's return, Truc Chi simpering at his elbow. Truc Chi feigned astonishment. What manner of clutter litters the ground? I retorted with icy disdain. The funeral garb and offerings for your avaricious parents. her porcelain features drained of colour as she turned beseechingly to Luc Canh Dat. "Brother Luc, my parents bore no guilt." He shot me a stern glance. "Calm yourself, Phong Ni. No soul brands your kin as felons. The clearance was sanctioned by the censorate's head personally." I held my tongue. That head was Truc Chi Dao. My words would only wound myself. Thien Nhu interceded. "Miss Tu, the truth of your house's sins resides in your conscience. How did redemption come so swiftly? The general at your side comprehends it all too well." To Nuc Phong dissolved into heaving sobs, burrowing into Luc Canh Dat's embrace. He soothed her with tender anguish, then snapped at Thien Nhu. "Cease your disruptions. Phong Ni harbours no malice. This confusion arose from ignorance. Instruct the staff to reclaim your belongings from the entrance. You retain your role as my embedded counsel." To Nuc Phong widened her eyes in mock horror. "Sister Thien Nhu has dwelt here all along. Goodness, that defies all decorum. As proper ladies, we must cherish our self-respect and shun such recklessness." Restraint frayed. I yearned to strike her. Thien Nhu restrained me, her gaze locked on Luc Canh Dat, awaiting his verdict. He confronted her stare head-on. "Phong Ni speaks truth. Your conduct lacks restraint, devoid of a gentle woman's grace. Contrast with Phong Ni, who declined my hospitality upon her return, demanding the two estates' completion first that exemplifies true breeding and integrity. Your name is sullied, your options nil. My charity in housing you stems from compassion. Aspire not to what lies beyond your grasp." Before we withdrew, Thien Nhu administered the slap I had suppressed, aimed at Luc Canh Dat. Confronting his wrath, she leaned in close. Dare to return it. His blazing fury flickered out in an instant. Beneath Nuc Phong's judgmental scrutiny, he remained inert. We exited the Luc estate, forsaking every strewn item. Amid the debris lay a flamboyant hairpin, overloaded with mismatched precious metals and stones gaudy in its excess. It was the priciest adornment Luc Canh Dat had acquired from a renowned goldsmith following his inaugural triumph and bounty. Presented to Thien Nhu, she had deemed it hideous and rebuffed it, chastising his extravagance. Yet I knew she treasured it in seclusion within her trinket case, stealing glances daily. Sorrow twisted in my chest. "You abandoned your wardrobe and finery. What did you salvage?" "Primarily the accumulated notes from these years. We cannot carry them beyond, so better to exhaust them here." Her logic resonated. I liquidated my immovable holdings, preserving solely the inn. In contrast to Thien Nhu, I had internalized the adage of scholars' fickle hearts. From my inception with Tuy Truong Binh, I hardied like a vigilant rodent, amassing reserves against uncertainty. Contemporary insights, though constrained in antiquity, facilitated modest wealth building. Residences, farmlands, establishments, artworks I built piecemeal. Across the span, I emerged as a quietly affluent figure. Emerging from the broker's den, I traversed past a drunken immortal inn, spotting osmanthus pastries on offer, and drifted into reverie. Truc Chi Dao had once shadowed me incessantly, but post to Nuc Phong's arrival, his pursuits vanished. The ensuing days saw Thien Nhu and me in retreat. She immersed herself in scribbling at her station, purpose obscured, while I wandered taverns for gossip in solitude. Tales abounded. General Luc escorted Miss Tu on a suburban ride. The steed bolted wildly, flinging her and bruising her limb. Luc Canh Dat felled it with a single shaft. Narrators lamented it was an exceptional mount, his sole snow-pure lion steed, companion through campaigns, sacrificed without pause for her sake. My fingers clenched a goblet, grief surging. That pale horse was the one Luc Canh Dat had procured expressly for Thien Nhu, praising its intuition and loyalty to her alone. Beasts retained loyalty where he had erased his. Spirits dampened, I returned to our haven, only to discover Thien Nhu absent. The manager hastened forward. Mistress, agents from the Tu household had seized Miss Thien Nhu. Racing there, I noted the perimeter sentries were the very unit I had drilled for Truc Chi Dao. They wavered at my sight, expressions tangled. Ere I could engage, their commander abruptly self-struck and crumpled. The rest mimicked, sparring lightly before tumbling with feigned groans. Vaulting the barrier, I spied Thien Nhu restrained by domestics in the court. The elder couple presided loftily from the hall, peering down with disdain. To Luc Canh Dat advanced, an injured arm wielding a pointed hairpin to tilt Thien Nhu's chin. Your role in my family's downfall, I have uncovered every thread. A scheming waif, were you not, destroying us to cling eternally to Canh Dat? Thien Nhu regarded her as one would a simpleton. Not all minds fixate on romance as yours does. Frontiers starved for provisions, coffers barren, soldiers unpaid. I merely unmasked corrupt bureaucrats for seizure who foresaw your clan among them. To Luc Canh Dat scoffed. Always circles back to Luc Canh Dat, such concern for him. Wager if I end you now, would he fault me? Thien Nhu's countenance shifted, our terminations loomed distant. Untimely demise amid weight might bar our homeward path. The system bellowed abruptly, line breach. I facilitate her precedence. Yield, forerunners we claim priority in oblivion. I poised to intervene, yet Luc Canh Dat stormed the yard first. To Luc Canh Dat morphed to vulnerability. Brother Luc, our border torments were endless. Saying this wretch alone can quench my vendetta. Luc Canh Dat halted, visage rent by conflict. Witnessing his indecision, Thien Nhu's gaze frosted over. Preempting him, she proclaimed, the Luc lineage pillars of fidelity framed by to forgery for sedition. The patriarch perished by his hand in captivity, bartering legacy for your unmolested growth. Luc Canh Dat, grasp you these enmities. His frame rigidified. To fortify his stance, he roared, grant the two clans culpability. Phuong Nhu's youth absolves her, what transgression hers? Lightning serpented the nocturnal vault. The system howled, breach achieved. Host Thien Nhu, embrace cessation. Post his utterance, Thien Nhu erupted in manic laughter, oblivious perhaps to the system's cue. Then, resonating for all present, Luc, heed. The counterfeit missive aping the patriarch's script pilfered by to Luc Canh Dat from your sanctum. She pivoted, thrusting her neck upon the hairpin. Pandemonium engulfed the two domain that eve. To Luc Canh Dat shrieked, relinquishing hold. Thien Nhu slumped, vital fluid cascading. Luc Canh Dat reeled toward her. I descended, boot to his countenance, distorting it grotesquely, palms raining blows, then cradled her form and vanished. System influence rendered her husk unnaturally swift to chill. Yet summons yielded silence. Dread mounted if the override faltered. If her timing erred, consequences unthinkable. Luc Canh Dat, visage blooded, pursued doggedly. Amusement struck who his audience. I paused atop a roof, confronting him across a span. Surrender her. I shall breach the palace for healers, or scour realms for sages. Mere instants she endures yet. I swayed her limp weight, deriding. Preserve your obdurate cranium. Venom laced my tone. General, recall your maternal heirloom's retrieval. Soul relic thug snatched it, discarded two sewers. Thien Nhu delved that fetid abyss, a full cycle of sun and moon to reclaim it. Bitten by vermin, fevered fortnightly, she enjoined secrecy, but you unearthed it. You pledged her inviolability thenceforth. Sewer rodents surpass your visage in bulk. I beheld such. Sharp edges haunted her since. Divine her turmoil impaling before you on that spike. He appeared spectral, vitality ebbed, revulsion welled. And those tormentors, commissioned by to Luc Canh Dat. I departed. Pursuit ceased. At the inn, I positioned Thien Nhu upon her pallet. System treated cadavers, resisted putrefaction briefly. Our joint ingress perhaps anchored her till my exit. Should decay ensue, address anon. 3 days to my allotted end. I sought similar circumvention, but post Thien Nhu, the system hushed. Those interim, revelation. Adversaries of Luc Canh Dat procured proofs of two falsification against the elder general. Probes exposed to as authentic traitors, enabling frontier collapses, plus decades of plunder, wielding officials as extensions. Uproar ensued. To kin vilified universally. To Truong Binh materialized then. Luc Canh Dat imperiled of late. Safeguard her. Indulging Osmanthus delicacies, I sneered. Censor Lord, to offences unexaggerated. Forging their vindication. Pondered you the shattered lives of bureaucrats and populists, silence, then murmur. Epochs elapsed, the two elders endured exile's rigors. Mercy befits, no, your mother, violated fatally by inebriated retainer, merely for Nuc Phong's whim on his carvings. Life trivialized, dare claim her immaturity, his parted lips sealed. Laughter risked fatality, proffered morsel, partake, irrelevant now. Your duty as my sentinel, comply, shield Nuc Phong, exhalation. He overlooked my inaugural slaying's terror, nascent prominence, obstructed a magnate's offspring's ascent. Hired blade sought his end. That nocturnal, life's fragility first gripped me. Unvoiced, yet he discerned distress. Sleepless nights transcribing tomes amid penury, procuring osmanthus treats from premier venues, sweets men's spirits, eons since such gestures. Decline, discarded bite, queasiness ascending, systems crackle resurfaced post-hiatus, blood expelled, his demeanor terror struck, visceral agony convulsed, mirrored Thien Nhu's farewell, pathetic demise is ours, preferred noose at two threshold, sight dimming, he hurtled forth, lips agape muttering inanities, contemptible, farewell, pause to dissect the narrator, early narrative, I linger mute, spectator over actor, not apathy, but scored concealment, submerged herein, sentiment's extravagance, no tears on translocation, no terror shrieks, no survival scrabbles, dutifully executed mandates, gleaning on leads, humanly flawed neither paragon nor fiend archetype, subsisting per system's edict, obligations, emotion suppression, steadfastness, proximity to warm self admonishes, entitlement nil, yet faltering gazes, directive hesitations betray yielding, realm's origins veiled, anonymity heightens woe, unnamed, unrooted, purposeless frigid directives, foreordained finale, nomadic essence in alien play, dual participant puppet, poignancy, awareness sans agency, uniqueness, amid ambition riddled, grudge-bearing archetypes, she injures none, craves no faith yet attends, seizes no rank yet persists, initiates no affection, cardiac fishes accrue, identity, detached gamer, or tendering maiden, ravager or affection craver, self-ignorant perchance, respite concluded, enter sequel, verities emerge, simplicity fractures, awareness revived amid antiseptic aura, clinic vault, prop gradually, blanket displaced limbs responsive, oscillated, sentiment torrent sans vent, Chi Dao, book's martial luminary, Truc Chi Dao, vehicular casualties hemiplegic victim, staff lunching, infiltrated adjacent solitary ward, Thien Nhu ceiling gazed vacantly, resounding claps, startle, damnation, bedside dossier, Lam Thien Nhu, Alzheimer's onset, wordless, perched, apple peeled, subsequently, identity, plunge, system vowed principle fulfillment heals, auxiliary unfinished, premature egress floor, dreamscape all, blink, affirmative, you, hemorrhage oral, fruit hurled, enveloped her, weeping, alternated sobs, mirth, lamentations, attendants arrived, awed by our revitalized limbs, expedited release, system abashed, queuing near mishap, glitch rectified, recompense, fractional auxiliary bounty despite abortion, devices alerted, 15 million apiece, lingering unresolved, trivial, felicitations on restoration, aspire tranquil existences, adieu, donated moiety to former sanctuary, banked residue timed, least spacious dwelling, mundane routines, tacit accord, vitality unanticipated boon, auxiliary election, prolonged proximity to those curs, Sabbath's marketing, eschew osmanthus vintages, bypass digital formule, Thien Nhu averts glittering vitrines, collie proffered gem chain, reception, tremor, droplet indented linker facing demands amplified torment over inscription, sporadically, book discourses, Thien Nhu, demise method, toxin, derision, insipid, indeed, inferior yours to ignominy crucifixion yours, smug, retort, own quarters, funds Luc retrieval necessity. Turmoil pilfered Lutz's faux purge attestations for 2. Dissimilar me strategic depths elude. Her book demise triad. Sewer vermin captured pendant locale. Liberated 2. Luc abodes. Opulent feasts. Brethren rodents. Benevolence incarnate. Thien Nhu. Corpses. System disposes. Peculiar. Yours proximate thrice days. Initial rigor. Subsequent slumber-like. Shiver. Quietude. System interference. Expired. Expired remains unreclaimed. Protagonists compel recall. Dragged. Thien Nhu profaned. Moronic refuse system. Pinnacle idiocy. Re-entering Chi Dao. Extremities fleetingly inert preemptive forfeit. Sprawled clearing. Sanguine sigils encircling. Tuy Truong Binh. Luc Canh Dat perimeter. Somber. Horrid Taoist quivered obeisance. Lords. Extraterrestrial essences reinstated. Mercy on my shrine. Self. Acolytes. Tuy Truong Binh gestured. Escorts hold Taoist. Luc Canh Dat avidly traversed. Cradling Thien Nhu's shoulders porcelain delicate. Returned. At last returned. New abandonment impossible. Modern annum. I zenith. Curse impending. Thien Nhu. Identity. Resembles my Canh Dat sibling. Collective stupefaction. Alzheimer's facsimile acquainted. Persisted. My Canh Dat vexed from drill inadequacy. Coax assistance. Luc Canh Dat clasped awkwardly. Abrupt retraction. Dual slaps. Erroneous not mine. Mine patriotic harboring turncoats. Beastly ingrate. Reflex wrist seize. Pressure elicited wail. Slackened. Renewed assault. Soul awareness. Authentic affliction non-aggressive. Are notwithstanding. Tuy Truong Binh neared. Laboured breaths post-strides novel affliction. Chi Dao. Mastered osmanthus confections. Return. Prepare yours. Grounded immobile. Tugged. Detecting paralysis. Frenzy. Embraced. Inspected. Shoved. Gnawed sanguine shoulder. Limb inuring. Paralysis verified. Raged. Inept. Claimed recall sequela free. Incinerate shrine. Occupants. Voiced. Sentinels paused. No slaughter per my decree. Thien Nhu indefatigable slapped Luc Canh Dat adjacent. Commotion auditory. Kicked Tuy Truong Binh chaotic. Named him. Muted. Inevitable. Segregated placement. Absurd. Excephalic advisor. Lame warden utility. Parted swiftly. To re-indicted. Scant capital liberty days. Re-incarcerated. Thien Nhu's dossiers proliferated offences lucid. Indefensible. Tuy Truong Binh abstained. Amalgamated indictments omitted banishment. 2 elders. Architects. Capitally sentenced. Luc Canh Dat raised opulent to gift manse. Reconstructed lavisher. Sequestered Thien Nhu. Tuy Truong Binh bed-chambered me masterly. Pre-departure. To rodents excelled. Singularly nipped Tuy Truong Binh amid multitudes. Indulged him. Direst straits. Pristine repasts. Nips nigh fatal. Convalesced asthmatic. Cadavers. Interred not. Bedroom preserved optimism. Resigned offices. Quested Taoists. Remote hermitage. Benevolent sage disclosed otherworldly origins. Soul severed relinquish. Temple coerced. Prohibited right enforced recall. Captive essentially. Flight arduous. Narrative realm. Apex leads hegemonic. Inept system vanished. Daily contemplation silent. Motion sparse. Tuy Truong Binh victuals proffered consumed. Infusions imbibed. Soul handmade osmanthus. Adamant refusal. Jaw coerced. Cranium collided forehead. Impact he collapsed nasal hemorrhage. Smirked. Fumbled cessation futile. Scattered treats soiled irretrievably. Retrieved. Ingested blooded. Weeping chortling. Chi Dao. Delectable believe. Away your fondness. Absolution unnecessary partake preferred. Beseech. Fraud scavenging evoked antiquity. Initial acquaintance. Protection motive obscure. Reciprocity innate. Festive eve. Coat savings diverted meat. Vintage feast. En route. Envious vagrant accused larceny. Arrived irate. System prowess poised assault. Tuy Truong Binh intercepted. Butcher blade borrowed. Substantial loin severed for accuser. Invective halted. Spittle aside. Departed meatless. Morrow. Verdant bundle threshold. Tacit atonement. Expounded. denizens piteous, villainy absent, existence's arduous eschew aggravation, gaze luminous, officialdom attained, alleviate citizenry woes, extirpate corrupt oppressors, bashful, enable Chi Dao perpetual favorites, alteration onset, trajectory nascent, banquet repatriation, observed my brew, sampled scowled, pale, course magistrates lotus supreme, aromatic, crave, dispatch superior abstained self-craft, stumbled quarters, solitary courtyard vigil, year dawn, prosperity uptick, communal suite vintage mid-autumn, semester, self-effaced, omissions escalated, guard initial report, to commissioning terminations core glacial, my cadre, commander loyalty informed, mitigated, shielded blameless, demeanor waned perfunctory, osmanthus, averse tart, glutinous favor resilient mastication, formerly shop compared, optimal selected, latterly, costliest exclusive, immortals escalated annually, caliber declined, novices solely procured for kin, ascendancy post, invariably there's mine acrid, floral void, observed consumption stray canine alcohol loaded, gratified beam, deemed scrap sufficed, attentive, canine stench, Truc Chi Dao, subpar reject, overvalued inferior sweets, your covert DKI spurn, derangement post, devoured his crafts, proficiency adequate, yet he atrophied further, Chi Dao, halt indifference absolute, academic acuity pinpoints, pampered, optima bestowed, accepted, response demanded, disregarded, percuss bed playfully, sobbed, self-mutilated, sporadic glances, fortitude lackluster, trampling devotion, reciprocated trampling, abrupt recollection, Chi Dao, witness abode, guards hoisted carriage ward, villa peripheral, subterranean feta aged rot, illumination barred, waste submerged murk confined entity, underflows concealed dreads, Tuy Truong Binh mellow, Chi Dao, heeded maternal retribution, accurate, to corruption, bias, multitudes ravaged merited, glared, respiration scant, if thoracic undulated, Tuy Truong Binh, ecstatic delirium, exoneration hand, pallid, vacillated, guard dirk extracted, dexter tendons severed my tutelage precise, scholarly appendage flaccid eternal, livid, quaking, sufficient, serene, dirk requisitioned relinquished, elevated, eyelids sealed, plunged to nuke forms jugular submerged, spasms, demise, hands cleansed, approach Luc Canh Dat, corpse sighted, oblivious feigned, proffered Thien Nhu's jettison hairpin, apex blunted, embellishments revitalized hue, elegance superior, valuation multiplied, gripped, original form recall, Thien Nhu past exclusive, rejects novelmance, mandates antique chamber variants incites tantrums, demolitions, reconstructions compelled, hairpin, paramount donors bequest, marred observed restoration, completed, dissimilar assertion, fasts protest, vendor defunct, form elusive, demanded prior alabaster equine dispatched for to harm, estate liquidated, armaments adored, fortunes expended, dozen plus pristine whites, Thien Nhu recollected sole rider exclusive, compelled sequential mounts, non-ejection prompt, disavowed, appeasement, startled beasts, simulated tumbles, unmastered, shoulder pulverized hoof, erstwhile commander, feather blade unhoistable, optimistic, tendered hairpin intelligence, appendages scarred layered, accepted, scrutinized, frigid chuckle mangled, jewels dust, bellowed, assaulted to Truong Binh intercepted, farrels glared, fingered remnant, hurled murk, plunged groping, ripples solitary, attendant, masters, sage missive, damsel's remedy, recalled locus conveyed, sage, invocation, sanguine moiety conduit for extraterrestrials' vigor, unhesitant compliance, Thien Nhu trailed shoulder shattering white transient pacifier, Luc Canh Dat encircled her, steed rigidly, my immobility, Tuy Truong Binh sidelined, guardians lax, hemorrhaged foe matrix, midpoint, system, hosts, leads enfeebled, array core repatriate. Thien Nhu reigned, equine neighed, surged. Wardens armed obstructed felled, by proximate me inexplicably. Mounted aft, charged sage, elevated equine bound with Thien Nhu. Array breached, panicked arose. Hemorrhage betrayed impotent. Erstwhile guards, tardy frenzy, babbling bustle. 2 days, bed-coded leader dialogue. Purloined, incinerated to pacts liberated, commandless. My protégés, mentor, savior affinity surpasses to dictator. Pre-emancipation, minor aid, assented. Thien Nhu Luc turmoil. Networks activated, sage contacted. Shrine threatened, he summoned reverse feasible. Weaken, abilities unhindered. Tormented corporeal, psychic not vengeance petty. Hypocritical thespian self-enthralled, response gratifies. Optimal, spectatorless. Refuse domicile refuse. System pact, existential. 5 annum domestic farce presumed. Blink, equine central. Aided Thien Nhu dismount. Rump patted. Steed ferried sage to pre-liberated kin. Leader roared pursuit feigned chase. Eternal absence. Port leave. Glance blood-crawling duo. Tuy Truong Binh crimson-orbed, supplicating. Lips reiterating pleas. Humph, averted, wordless. With Thien Nhu, engulfed white radiance amid agonized howls. But the light faltered, twisting into a vortex of shadows that clawed at our souls. The system's voice crackled one last time, fractured and desperate. Error. Critical failure. Bonds to deep. Cannot sever. We plummeted back into the array, bodies slamming against the bloodied earth. Thien Nhu gasped, her eyes wide with horror as the ritual's backlash surged through us. Luc Canh Dat and Tuy Truong Binh, half drained of life, dragged themselves forward, their weakened forms now vessels for accursed immortality. In that final, irreversible moment, we realized the truth. Our attempts to flee had only woven us tighter into the fabric of this world. Thien Nhu's mind shattered completely under the strain, leaving her a hollow shell trapped in endless loops of forgotten memories, forever tending to the man who had betrayed her. I, paralyzed and broken, was condemned to watch Tuy Truong Binh futile atonement, his every gesture a reminder of lost trust. The system abandoned us entirely, its silence a death knell. No return, no peace, only eternal torment in a story that refused to release its unwilling players. Our sacrifices, our pains, all for naught, echoing into a void where hope had long since died.